Yeah, well, the first one really is about your training and whether you should be training all squad, whether you should be training some squad. And I suppose that is a really big debatable question that I get lots of triathletes asking me about. And look, my philosophy is a combination of both is going to be so much more advantageous to your swimming. If you just did all squad stuff, you're in that whirlpool of sitting in behind a group of 8 swimmers, and the water resistance you get, let's get specific here, the water resistance you get when you're swimming in a draft situation, which is what you want in a race. You want to get that bubbly water in front of you because that's easier water to swim in than solid water without bubbles. That's harder to swim in. It's like headwind, tail in a bike section of a ride. So really important that swimmers don't just do squad swimming, that they do squad swimming to get some real intensity because it pushes you. The competition's great, but you need to also do some swimming where you're breaking the water yourself so that you can get some fitness base around that. And really the other point is outside training. Should you be swimming in a lake or a river or an ocean? And the answer is absolutely you should be. We don't do any triathlons in a pool. I have actually done a couple of triathlons in a pool, but they're very rare. And we're talking, potentially Olympic Ironman and half Ironman, and of course we're doing sprint. But really, you need to have practiced in the ocean because that's where the race is going to be.
Good. So the first part of the preparation is stop squad training so much and make sure you're practicing out in the ocean.
Yep. So, don't underestimate how valuable it is to be in the ocean, not only because that's where the race is, but you've got to learn some other skills that you can't learn in the pool. And one is, where am I going? In the pool, you're just following someone's feet, and there's a black line that you're, putting your body in a certain position against the black line so you don't have a head-on with the person coming the other direction in the pool. So you don't have that in the ocean. You're looking at, possibly 20 metres of depth of water below you where you can't orientate whether you're swimming left, right or centre. So you need to practice, swimming every 6 or 7 strokes with, as you inhale, when you take a breath, take a quick look at a particular marker that you can identify. And that's a real art, because as soon as you lift your head up high, your feet fall. And the idea in swimming is to keep your head and your feet at the same level. That way you're more streamlined, so there's less water resistance, therefore you'll swim faster. So the minute you drop your feet, when you're navigating, you're actually going to slow down.
So that navigation, you talk about that concept a lot, where it's you're not just swimming in the open water just to get a feel for the water. You're talking about everything that encompasses swimming in the ocean, which you will have to experience in the race.
Yeah, from navigation and determining whether the person you're swimming is swimming straight. So you're putting your faith in the guy you're sitting on, whose feet you're sitting on, to think that he's going to swim in a straight line. So that's a bit of a risk. Should you do that? Should you not do that? Well, I would start with someone who's swimming at my pace so that I'm getting a freer ride with less resistance, so I'm saving energy. But if I look up and I see that the boy that I'm aiming for is now on our right and it was on our left 4 strokes ago, I'm starting to get concerned about how straight this guy's swimming. Mm-hmm. So I might try and look for another person's feet if I think that we're zigzagging a bit. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting when I download the results and I see that the race might be 3.8k and, Joe's swam 4.1. Sure, the course might be a little bit long, but more than likely it's because he's swum, zigzag across the course, and he's actually swam an extra few hundred metres. And if I compare that with other swimmers who are in the same race, and they might have done 4K or 3.9 or 3.8.5, they're the guys swimming direct. And that could add 5 minutes onto your time by zigzagging.
You also talk about how the start and finish can really add to your time if you don't get that right, if you don't practice that.
Yeah, so in training, I would definitely be doing ocean swims or river swims or lake swims where I start on the beach or on the shore, depending on where you are, and I would get into the water and start swimming and try to pick a marker and swim straight towards it. And that would be practicing the start, practicing navigation, and practicing not swimming too hard, because that's one of the other key pointers that we're going to talk about later. But certainly, those skills, you can't get that in the pool. You can't run into the water because that's something that people don't really think about, because it's really lifting your heart rate. The minute you start running compared to swimming, compared to riding, the heart rate responds differently. Running will spike your heart rate a lot quicker than swimming and riding will. So, sprinting into the water is not really an efficient way to start the swim leg, especially in an endurance race like a 3.8K swim. That might be okay in a 500-metre sprint race, but you still don't want to be sprinting where we're trying to keep our heart rate from spiking too high, because the minute our heart rate goes into lactate, then you're going to swim with, like, your arms are going to be like bricks. So you want to avoid that. So swimming too hard at the start is one of the things we're trying to avoid.
So on that last point in preparation, and you talk about how much benefit there is in practicing in the ocean, you've just listed then that it's not just getting used to the actual swimming in the ocean, it's the navigation, making sure you're going on a straight line, it's making sure that you're practicing the start and finish, so you're learning not to waste energy. What else is happening in that race that you need to practice? I mean, you touched on it before with following someone's feet. I mean, how important is getting that right? Yeah,
so the drafting point, we did basically have some information about that, but the way the race sometimes pans out, it can be a wave start or it can be a rolling start. In the old days, it was just a mass start. And so triathlon swim leg has really changed since the 80s, and where you had up to 1,500 people starting at once, and then the next phase was to put people in age groups, so waves. And now it's a rolling start in age groups. So you're only really entering the water with 4 or 5 other people. So that panic, anxiety problem that you had from the mass start has been reduced a lot. So you still need to self-seed. And where would you self-seed yourself in your age group? Well, I would always try to work out what your best PB time for the particular race we're doing, whether it's an Olympic half Ironman or Ironman. And if you're a 1 hour Ironman swimmer, I would try and self-seed yourself between 55 minutes and an hour. If you're a 30-minute half Ironman swimmer, same again, 28 to 32, somewhere around there. You don't want to be swimming around people who are slower than you. That is really not helping the point that we're trying to make here, which is drafting. So self-seeding is important. It is far better to have people coming past you, but not lots of people. So you don't want to be putting yourself 10 minutes ahead, so you're getting the whole field swimming over the top of you. That's going to be really annoying and throw your rhythm out. So my suggestion is to try and get with people who are slightly faster than you are, so that then you can select the people's feet that you're going to try and follow. And as we said before, having bubbly water in front of you is so much easier and more efficient way of swimming, which is going to reduce the effort you're going to put into the race later on for your ride and run.
How should you practice that in training? Should you be doing more trainings? Because we said before you don't want to be doing too much squad training, but you also want to be practicing being able to draft from someone. So where do you find that balance?
Yeah, well, the squad training session is the one where, it is really annoying if the person behind you touches your feet, and you've got to get practiced at being close enough without having to touch people's feet. And I'm thinking that, that one squad session, that's where you should be doing that. You can try and meet some buddies for an ocean swim and swap roles. When you're swimming, say there's 5 of you swimming or 2 of you, spend some time behind that person, spend some time in front. So both of you are getting a practice at drafting.
Good. So is there anything else people need to do in their preparation to make sure that come race day they get it right?
Well, equipment. So I've seen so many people get their brand new wetsuit and goggles and start the race without having ever used them. And that is a recipe for disaster. The wetsuit, it needs to fit really well because it's like a second skin. But if it's too tight, it can overheat you. It can restrict your movement, your arm movement. You don't want to find that out during the race. You want to have had plenty of chances to experiment with, does this suit fit me properly? I had an experience years and years ago. We were in, I think it was in the Gold Coast, and I got a brand new wetsuit. I was really happy with it. It fitted me really well, but it got too hot. And halfway through the swim, I was nearly suffocating with overheating. I had to swim to the side. It was in a dam, and basically take the wetsuit off. Take the wetsuit off. I was absolutely overheating, and that was a real big mistake for not using it prior.
Yeah.
The goggles, you really need to have practiced with the goggles to see whether they fog up, to see whether you can see clearly. Is the sun going to be shining in your eyes? So you want to have ones with tint. So you need to have practiced with the goggles and the wetsuit. They're two pieces of equipment that you should not go into a race with without having done at least 10 or more swims with those particular pieces of equipment, because they're the things that can derail the race for you.
Yeah, in the ocean or in the lake or in a river or whatever your race is going to be.
I have actually done a wetsuit 1,500 metre time trial in a pool.
Yeah.
And just to feel the difference. And boy, did it make a difference in the pool. I swam so much faster. The buoyancy factor of a wetsuit is incredible. And as we know, Kona was always a non-wetsuit event. So, you need to practice without a wetsuit as well, obviously.